The assembly hall floated in the void above Throne Prime, a massive structure that housed representatives from 47 different species. Inside, the Galactic Council gathered for what many considered a routine session. They were wrong. Captain Daewon Kim stood in the waiting chamber, his hands clasped behind his back. His uniform was simple compared to the elaborate garments worn by other species. Next to him, Ambassador Ji-Woo Park reviewed her notes one final time. She looked calm, but Daewon knew her well enough to see the tension in her shoulders. "They're going to reject us," Ji-Woo said quietly. "I can feel it." Daewon didn't answer. He'd spent 20 years in space, first as a pilot, then as a commander. He'd seen how the other species looked at humans, like they were children playing with toys they didn't understand. The doors opened. A crystalline being, her body refracting light into rainbow patterns, gestured for them to enter. High Arbiter Velshara was the most powerful individual in known space. Her species, the Loomis Collective, had been traveling between stars when humans were still learning to make fire. Ambassador Park Velshara's voice came from everywhere and nowhere, a peculiar effect of her crystalline structure. "Captain Kim, please approach." They walked forward. The council chamber was circular, with representatives seated in rising tiers. Daewon recognized most of them. The insectoid trade prince Quillix, his compound eyes reflecting light like jewels. The massive War Master Throck, his scales the color of dried blood, easily 3 meters tall and built like a tank. Dozens more, each stranger than the last. "We have reviewed Earth's application for full membership," Velshara began. "Your species has been provisional members for 2 decades. In that time, you have established 3 colony worlds and maintained peaceful relations with your neighbors. However, concerns have been raised." Here it comes, Daewon thought. War Master Throck stood. His voice was a deep rumble that seemed to shake the floor. "I will speak plainly. Humans are weak. Your physical capabilities are unremarkable. You have no natural weapons, no armor, no venom. Your strength is average, your speed mediocre. Are soft-skinned prey animals who somehow stumbled into space travel. Room." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Daewon felt Ji-Woo tense beside him, but she remained silent. Furthermore, Throck continued, "Your history is disturbingly violent. Your planet's records show constant warfare. You have developed weapons capable of sterilizing your own world. How can we trust such a species with access to the greater galaxy?" Trade Prince Quillix clicked his mandibles in what Daewon had learned was amusement. "War Master Throck raises valid concerns. However, I believe humans show potential. They are innovative, if nothing else. Their economic contributions have been steady." "Steady," Throck snorted, "but unremarkable. There are 30 species in the provisional membership queue. Most are superior to humans in every measurable way. Why should Earth advance when others wait?" Gu finally spoke. "Because we have something others lack. Adaptability." Velshara's light patterns shifted, indicating interest. "Elaborate." "Humanity evolved on a death world," Ji-Woo said. Daewon noticed she didn't flinch when she said it. "Our planet tested us with ice ages, predators, diseases, and disasters. We survived by learning, adapting, and overcoming. That's our strength." "Empty words," Throck said. "The Draxian Empire conquered 12 star systems through strength. The Hive consortiums dominate trade through superior efficiency. What have humans conquered? What do you dominate?" The question hung in the air. Daewon knew the answer, but also knew it wouldn't help their case. Humans had conquered Earth itself, turned a hostile world into a garden. But how could he explain that to species who had never faced real existential threats? Velshara's patterns shifted again. "The council is divided. Therefore, I propose a solution. Proving trial." Daewon's stomach dropped. He'd heard of proving trials. They were ancient traditions, rarely used, and almost never survived. "What kind of trial?" Gu asked carefully. "Callisnine," Velshara said. "A moon in the outer territories. It is designated a nature preserve due to its hostile ecosystem. 7 species have attempted to establish research stations there. All have failed. The environment is too dangerous. You want us to survive there? Daewon said. Yes. It wasn't a question. For 30 days, Velshara confirmed. You may take a crew of 30 humans and minimal equipment. We will observe via satellite. If you survive, Earth will be granted full membership immediately. If you fail, Earth's application will be rejected for 50 standard years. Throk's laugh was like grinding stones. Colossus has killed trained warriors from a dozen species. These soft humans won't last a week. Quillix leaned forward.
Ups.
That is the point, War Master. To see what they are truly made of. Daewon looked at Jiwoo. They didn't need words. He could see the calculation in her eyes. Refuse. And Earth's application would likely be rejected anyway. Accept, and at least they had a chance. We accept, Giwoo said. The chamber erupted in noise. Some species were surprised, others amused. Throk looked disappointed, as if he'd expected them to refuse. Velshara raised one crystalline arm, and silence fell. Very well.
Captain Kim, you will lead the expedition?
Select your crew carefully. You depart in 3 days. The meeting adjourned. As they left the chamber, Daewon felt dozens of eyes following them. Some pitying, some curious, most dismissive. Back aboard the human vessel Indomitable Spirit, Daewon gathered his senior staff, Lieutenant Sung-Ho Choi, his tactical officer, Sergeant Minji Kong, who'd spent 10 years in Earth's Special Forces before joining the Space Corps, Engineer Borahan, who could fix anything with spare parts and determination, Edik Young-soo, Nam, who'd served in 3 war zones before the age of 30. Callus 9, Daewon said without preamble. We have 30 days to survive on a moon that's killed every other species that tried. They think we're going to fail. What do we know about it? Sung-Ho asked. Dr. Hai Jin Lee, their xenobiologist, pulled up data on the main screen. It's classified as a Class 4 death world. That's 1 level below Earth's classification before we terraformed it. Megafauna predators, toxic plants, extreme weather, and an ecosystem that's actively hostile to outsiders. Minji studied the data, her expression thoughtful. It sounds like home. I got a few surprised looks. She smiled grimly. I trained in the Amazon, the Siberian wilderness, and the Australian outback. If this place is like Earth used to be, we'll have an advantage, Young-soo asked. We're not stronger than the aliens who failed, No Daewon said slowly, understanding Minji's point. But we evolved fighting places like this. They didn't. Sung-Ho caught on. They're testing us on the one kind of world we're actually specialized for. Exactly, Daewon said. They think they're giving us an impossible challenge. They don't realize they've just put us on familiar ground. He looked around at his crew. Select 27 more. I want people with wilderness survival training, military experience, and the ability to adapt. We're not going to Callus 9 to survive. We're going to show the galaxy what humans do best. Which is? Biora asked. Day-Wan smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. We hunt. 3 days later, the human shuttle descended toward Callus 9. In orbit, Council observers watched with interest. War Master Throk had bet heavily that the humans wouldn't last 10 days. Trade Prince Quillix, hedging his bets as always, had wagered they might make it 15. None of them knew that they were about to witness something unprecedented. They'd spent so long at the top of the galactic food chain that they'd forgotten what real predators looked like. They were about to remember. The shuttle touched down in a clearing surrounded by dense forest. Before the engines fully cooled, Daewon had his crew deployed in a defensive perimeter. This wasn't standard procedure for landing on an uninhabited world. But then again, Callus 9 wasn't uninhabited. Atmosphere is breathable, Hai-Jin reported, checking her scanner. Oxygen levels are actually higher than Earth standard. Temperature is warm, humidity high. Lots of plant life means lots of animals. Lots of things that want to eat us, you mean, Corporal G.A. Moon said. She was their best tracker, small and quick, with eyes that missed nothing. That too, Hai-Jin agreed. Minji was already moving through the clearing, studying the ground. Tracks here. 6-legged, heavy. Something big passed through recently. She touched the crushed grass, brought her fingers to her nose. Within the hour, Predator, Daewon asked. Everything's a predator until proven otherwise, Minji replied. It was a rule she'd learned in Earth's wild places. It had kept her alive more times than she could count. The crew unloaded their equipment. Per trial rules, they had basic tools, medical supplies, and enough rations for 3 days. After that, they'd have to live off the land. The council observers wanted to see if humans could truly survive without their technology. First priority is water, Day 1 announced. Sung-Ho, take a team and scout for a clean source. Minji, map the immediate area and identify threats. Biora, I want shelter foundations started before nightfall. Everyone else, perimeter security. They moved with practiced efficiency. In orbit, the council observers watched with mild interest. Standard survival protocol, nothing impressive yet. By midday, Sung-Ho's team had located a stream a kilometer east. Biora had her engineering team cutting logs and preparing a shelter site. Minji returned with troubling news. We're in a hunting ground, she told Daewon quietly. There are at least 3 apex predators in this area. I found kill sites, drag marks, territorial markings. We landed in the middle of their territory. Good, Daewon said. Minji blinked. Good. Better to know where they are than wonder. Can you identify the species? She nodded, pulling up images on her datapad. This one the locals call a razor spine hunter. 6 legs, heavy build, covered in bony plates with sharp edges. Pack hunter. Intelligent. They've killed 5 researchers from different species in the past decade. Weaknesses? According to records, none found. They're armored, fast, and work together. Previous expeditions tried to avoid them or defend against attacks. Both strategies failed. Daewon studied the images. The creatures looked formidable, like someone had crossed a bear with a porcupine and added extra legs. But he'd seen worse. Earth had produced the Smilodon, the dire wolf, the short-faced bear. Humanity had survived them all. We're not going to avoid them, he said, and we're not going to wait for them to attack. Minji smiled slowly. We hunt them first. Exactly. That night, the humans built fires. In orbit, War Master Throk laughed when he saw the flames. Fools. They're announcing their presence to every predator within kilometers. But Velshara was less certain. Or they're confident. In what? Their soft flesh and fragile bones? The High Arbiter didn't answer. Something about the humans' behavior was unusual. They weren't acting like frightened survivors. They were acting like they owned the territory. On the 3rd day, the razor spine hunters came. They attacked at dawn, 6 of them, each weighing over 300 kilograms. They moved with terrible speed and coordination. Surrounding the human camp from multiple directions, the council observers prepared to witness the humans' final moments. Throk leaned forward, vindicated. Then the humans responded. Young Su saw the first one coming and didn't run. He shouted a warning and dove behind a prepared barricade. The entire camp erupted into coordinated action. Not panic, not chaos. Coordinated action. The lead hunter charged at Private Taiyang, the youngest member of the crew. He held his ground until the last second, then rolled aside. The creature crashed into a concealed pit trap, stakes at the bottom driving through its softer underbelly. The second hunter leaped at Biora. She triggered a spring-loaded trap that launched a sharpened log into its side. The creature howled and stumbled. The remaining 4 hunters regrouped, more cautious now. They circled the camp looking for weaknesses. They found none. The humans had turned their landing site into a fortress. Minji watched from a tree, her rifle aimed. Not a laser rifle, those weren't allowed. A simple projectile weapon, manufactured on Earth. She brought it knowing that sometimes old ways were best. She fired. The shot caught a hunter in the eye, dropping it instantly. The other hunters charged. This time, they met the full force of human cooperation. 30 people working as one, using tactics refined over 200,000 years of persistence hunting. They used spears, traps, and coordinated movements. They didn't try to match the creature's strength. Instead, they attacked from multiple angles, never giving the hunters a clear target. When one human fell back, 2 more took their place. It was over in minutes. 3 hunters dead, 3 retreating with wounds. Not a single human fatality. A few injuries, nothing young Sue couldn't handle. The crew didn't celebrate. They immediately began processing the bodies. Good meat, Minji said, examining the muscle tissue. The armor plates can be used for better tools. Bones are dense, useful for weapons. Haijin was already taking samples. I need to understand their biology. If they come back, we'll be ready. In orbit, the council observers sat in stunned silence. They'd just watched humans turn a deadly predator attack into a harvesting opportunity. They killed 3 razor spine hunters, Quillick said quietly. In a single engagement. They're using the bodies, Velshara observed. Like resources. Throck said nothing. His confidence was beginning to waver. By day 7, the human camp had transformed. The shelter was now a proper structure with walls, a roof, and defensive positions. They dug a well, established a waste management system, and created storage for food. More importantly, they'd mapped 60% of the surrounding territory. They knew where the water sources were, where predators hunted, where edible plants grew. They weren't learning to survive Calicinine, they were learning to dominate it. Sung-Ho stood watch on the 7th night, looking up at the stars. He knew the council was watching. He wondered what they thought of humans now. In the command center, Velshara called an emergency session. We need to discuss the humans. They're surviving, Quillick said. Impressively so. But it's only been 7 days. They're not surviving, Velshara corrected. They're thriving. Look at their camp. Look at how they've adapted. They're not treating this as a trial. They're treating it as colonization, Throck growled. They killed a few animals. That proves nothing. It proves they understand something we've forgotten, Velshara said. They evolved on a death world. Not a world that became dangerous later, but a world that was always trying to kill them. Every species on Earth competed for survival. Humans won that competition. They're still weak, Throck insisted. Are they? Velshara gestured to the screens showing the human camp. Watch them. Really watch. They don't have natural weapons, so they make them. They don't have armor, so they build it. They don't have venom, so they use tactics. They've turned weakness into adaptation. Dr. Sujin Wang, the team's botanist, found an edible plant that grew near the stream. She didn't just harvest it. She transplanted several specimens near the camp, starting a garden. Why are you planting? Ga asked her. Because we might be here a while, Sujin replied. And if we're here a while, we should improve the place. It was such a simple statement, but it revealed everything about human psychology. They didn't accept environments. They changed them. Back on Earth, news of the trial had spread. Billions watched the feeds, cheering every small victory. They saw their representatives not as victims of an unfair test, but as pioneers doing what humans had always done, taking hostile territory and making it home. Ambassador Giwu received messages of support from across the human worlds. But she also received something else. Warnings from friendly alien species. The council is frightened, one message read. They're seeing something they didn't expect. Be careful. Fear makes people dangerous. She shared the message with Daewon during their nightly communication. Let them be frightened, Daewon said. We're not here to make them comfortable. We're here to prove we deserve a place in the galaxy. And if we're too successful, if we scare them too much, Daewon looked around his camp, at his crew, working together, building something from nothing. Then they'll learn an important lesson. Humans are dangerous when you threaten us, but we're even more dangerous when you give us a challenge. On day 8, the razor spine hunters came back. This time, there were 12 of them. They expected the humans to be weakened, vulnerable. They found a fortified camp with trained defenders and prepared weapons. The battle was shorter this time and more decisive. When it was over, the humans had killed 7 hunters and captured 2 juveniles alive. Why keep them alive? Haijin was asked by a council observer who finally broke protocol to ask a question directly. To study them, she replied. To understand them. To see if they can be reasoned with or domesticated. We're not monsters. We're scientists. The answer disturbed the observer more than the killing had. The second week on Calasanine began with a decision that would define the rest of the trial. Day 1 gathered his senior staff around the morning fire, their breath misting in the cool dawn air. "We're not waiting anymore," he announced. "We're going hunting." The target was the Shadow Stalker, the apex predator of Calas 9, according to the Council's records. It had killed researchers from 7 different species over the past 20 years. It was fast, nearly invisible, and terrifyingly intelligent. Most species that encountered it didn't see it coming until it was too late. "Like suicide," Young-Su said flatly. "Every report says the Shadow Stalker is unbeatable. It's killed trained warriors. It's killed aliens who didn't know how to hunt," Minji corrected. "There's a difference." She spread a map across the ground, marking locations. "I've been tracking it for 3 days. It has a territory that covers roughly 40 square kilometers. It hunts at dawn and dusk, using the low light to blend with shadows. It prefers lone prey, but it's taken groups when desperate." "How do you know all this?" Seung-ho asked. "'Cause I've been watching it." "Watch us," Minji said. "It's been circling our camp since day 4, testing us, looking for weakness." Day 1 felt a chill that had nothing to do with the morning air. "It's been here. Why didn't it attack?" "Because it's smart," Minji replied. "It knows we're dangerous. It's waiting for us, too. Make a mistake, to let our guard down. But here's what it doesn't know. We're not prey. We're hunters, too, and we're done being patient." The plan was simple in concept, but complex in execution. They would use Taeyong as bait. The youngest member of the crew would go on a solo scouting mission, appearing vulnerable. The Shadow Stalker would see an easy target. What it wouldn't see was the 15 humans hidden in positions around the route. Weapons ready, traps set. "You don't have to do this," Day 1 told Taeyang privately. The young man shook his head. "Yes, I do. Everyone else has proven themselves. I need to show I belong here. You've already proven that." "Not to myself." Day 1 understood. He'd been young once, eager to test himself. "All right. But you follow the route exactly. No improvising. And at the first sign of trouble, you signal. Pride isn't worth your life." Taeyong nodded, but they both knew that if the Shadow Stalker attacked, there might not be time for signals in orbit. The Council observers had increased their surveillance. The human behavior was becoming more aggressive, more organized. They weren't acting like a species trying to survive a trial. They were acting like an invasion force. "They're hunting the Shadow Stalker," Throck said, disbelief in his voice. "They're actually hunting it." "Madness," another council member muttered. "That creature has killed some of our best warriors." But Velshara was quiet, studying the human formations. There was something familiar about their tactics, something that nagged at her memory. Then it clicked. "They're persistence hunters," she said aloud.
What?"
Throck asked. "It's in their biological records. Humans evolved as persistence hunters. They didn't chase prey down with speed. They tracked it, tired it out, and killed it when it was exhausted. They're doing the same thing now. They've been studying the Shadow Stalker, learning its patterns. Now they're going to force it into a confrontation on their terms." "It won't work," Throck insisted. "The Shadow Stalker is too fast, too deadly." "Perhaps," Velshara said. "Or perhaps we've forgotten what it means to be hunted by something smarter than you." Taeyong walked the forest path, trying to look casual and failing. His heart hammered in his chest. Every shadow seemed to move. Every sound was the stalker. He wanted to run, to call for help, to abandon this stupid plan, but he didn't. He kept walking. Minji watched from a tree 20 meters away, perfectly still. She'd trained herself to become part of the landscape, a skill learned from a dozen Earth environments. Beside her, hidden in the branches, Ga waited with equal patience. The Shadow Stalker appeared without warning. One moment the path was empty, the next moment it was there, a creature of nightmare and dark matter. It stood 3 meters tall on 4 legs, its body seeming to absorb light rather than reflect it. Razor-sharp limbs extended from its sides, each capable of cutting through bone. It had been studying Taeyong for the past 100 meters. invisible in the filtered sunlight. Now it moved to attack. Te Chang heard something, a whisper of displaced air. He dove forward, training overriding fear. The Shadow Stalker's strike missed by centimeters. It adjusted instantly, moving to finish him. Then Minji's shot took it in the shoulder. The creature screamed, a sound like tearing metal. It spun toward Minji's position, fast as thought. But she was already moving, dropping from the tree, rolling behind cover. G-Ah fired from a different angle. Another hit, this time in the flank. The Shadow Stalker realized it was surrounded. It tried to flee, but Bora triggered a trap that dropped a net of woven steel cables across its path. The creature crashed into it, tangled. More humans emerged from hiding. They didn't rush in. They maintained distance, using ranged weapons. Giving the stalker no targets to strike, it fought with terrifying strength, tearing through the net. But each time it broke free, another trap activated. Another injury accumulated now. Daewon shouted. The final trap was sprung. A weighted net launched from 4 directions, wrapping the creature completely. It thrashed, but the more it struggled, the tighter the net became. The Shadow Stalker finally went still, exhausted and wounded. The humans approached carefully, weapons ready. It's not dead, Hyjin observed, scanning it with her instruments. Just tired. We're not going to kill it, Daewon said. They got surprised looks from his crew. Sir Sungho asked. We're going to track it to its den. I want to know if there are more of them. If there are young ones. This isn't about revenge or proving ourselves anymore. It's about understanding the ecosystem. They followed the creature's trail, keeping it sedated with mild tranquilizers that Youngsu had prepared. It led them to a cave system in a rocky outcropping 5 kilometers from their camp. Inside, they found 3 juveniles, each about half the size of an adult. The babies looked at the humans with wide, curious eyes. They're not dangerous yet, Hyjin said, scanning them. Maybe 6 months old? They'd need another year to develop their camouflage abilities. What do we do with them? Ga asked. Day-1 made a decision that would echo through galactic history. We tag them and release them. All of them, including the adult. What? Several crew members said at once. Look at them, Daewon said, gesturing to the juveniles. They're babies. Yes, their parent attacked our team member. But it was just hunting, doing what predators do. We're not here to drive species to extinction. We're here to prove we can survive. We've done that. Now we prove we can do it with wisdom. Hyjin tagged all 4 Shadow Stalkers with tracking devices. Youngsu treated the adults' wounds. They released them and left the cave. In orbit, the council observers sat in stunned silence. They caught it, Quillick said quietly. They caught the uncatchable predator. And they let it go, Velshara added. They showed mercy. Mercy is weakness, Throck growled, but his voice lacked conviction. Is it? Velshara asked. They demonstrated they could kill it. They chose not to. That's not weakness. That's power exercised with restraint. It's something we claim to value in civilized species. A council member from the luminous choir spoke, her voice like singing crystals. This changes our understanding of them. They're not mindless killers. They're selective, strategic. They hunt what threatens them and spare what doesn't. That's the mark of a mature predator, or a dangerous one, Throck muttered. By day 15, the human settlement had grown beyond anyone's expectations. They'd cleared 2 additional acres, built 3 more structures, and established a proper farm. Sujin's gardens were producing vegetables transplanted from earth seeds. Biora had constructed a water wheel that powered basic machinery. They'd mapped the entire region, cataloged 43 species, and established a sustainable relationship with their environment. When predators came too close, they were driven off, not killed. When resources were harvested, they were replanted. They're building a colony, Ambassador Jiwoo reported to Earth. They were supposed to survive for 30 days. Instead, they've created something that could last years. The political situation in the council grew tense. Some species saw the humans as exactly what the galaxy needed: tough, adaptable, and capable. Others saw them as a potential threat. How could you trust a species that was so good at killing when necessary, but so controlled about when they chose to kill? A faction led by Throck began pushing for the trial to be terminated early. They've proven themselves dangerous, he argued. Do we really want to give such a species full access to galactic civilization? But Quillix countered. They've proven themselves capable. There's a difference. Besides, they've followed every rule of the trial. To stop it now would be admitting we're afraid of them. You should be afraid, Throck said. Hapsvelshar interjected. But fear is not a good basis for policy. The trial continues. On day 17, Corporal GA discovered something troubling during a long-range scouting mission. She returned to camp at a dead run. We have a problem, she told Day 1. There's another camp. 15 kilometers north. Not human, who? Day 1 asked, instantly alert. I couldn't get close enough to identify species. But their camp is fortified, armed, and they're watching us. I found surveillance equipment pointed at our location. Sung-Ho frowned. The trial rules said this moon was uninhabited, except for us. Ow. Which means someone's cheating, Minji said. The question is why? Hey. Day 1 considered the possibilities. It's either council observers breaking protocol, or another species trying to sabotage our trial. Either way, we need to know who they are and what they want. I'll take a team tonight, Minji offered. We'll get close enough to identify them. Be careful, Day 1 warned. If they're hostile, don't engage. We're not here to start a war, just to finish one if necessary, Minji said with a slight smile. That night, while the rest of the camp slept, Minji led Gion Tuyong through the forest. They moved like ghosts, using skills that humans had refined over millennia of hunting and warfare. By dawn, they had their answer. The mysterious camp belonged to Draxian scouts, War Master Throk species. They'd been placed on Callus 9 to observe and, if necessary, interfere with the human trial. It was technically a massive violation of council rules. But it was also revealing. Throck was so disturbed by human success that he'd resorted to cheating. Minji reported back to Day 1. He listened, then smiled. Good. Let them watch. Let them report back to Throck. We're not doing anything wrong. We're just being human. The Draxian observers watched for another week, sending daily reports. Each report was more alarming than the last. The humans weren't just surviving. They were thriving in ways that shouldn't be possible for such a physically unremarkable species. On day 20, one Draxian observer sent a message that ended with, "Recommend immediate termination of trial." Humans are more dangerous than assessed. They do not fight like prey. They fight like apex predators that have never forgotten what it means to hunt. Day 25 arrived with unexpected news. Velshara herself requested permission to visit the human settlement on Callus 9's surface. It was unprecedented for a High Arbiter to personally inspect a trial. But then again, nothing about this trial had been typical. Day 1 stood in the center of what had once been a simple landing site and was now a small town. He looked around at what his crew had built and felt a surge of pride. They'd done more than survive. They'd created something worth protecting. She'll be here in an hour, Sung-Ho reported. 3 council members are coming with her. Throck, Quillix, and someone from the Luminous Choir. Good, Day 1 said. Make sure the place looks presentable. Not perfect, just lived in. I want them to see this is a home, not a military camp. The shuttle landed precisely 1 hour later. Velshara emerged first, her crystalline body reflecting the afternoon sunlight into rainbow patterns. Behind her came Throck, massive and intimidating, his red scales gleaming. Quillix followed, his insectoid body clicking in worry. The choir representative, a being named Sella, floated rather than walked, her form seeming more energy than matter. Welcome to New Hope, Day 1 said, using the name his crew had unofficially given their settlement. New Hope? Velshara repeated. You've named it? Everything needs a name, Day 1 replied. Would you like a tour? They walked through the settlement in silence at first. The council members observed everything with careful attention. The organized streets laid out in a grid pattern, the central well with its hand pump system, the communal cooking area where Sujin was preparing the evening meal from a mixture of earths, vegetables, and local plants that Heejin had confirmed were safe. "You have gardens," Sela observed, her voice like wind chimes. "Of course," Sujin replied, looking up from her work. "We need sustainable food sources. The local plants are nutritious, but we've also been growing earth crops. They're adapting well to the soil here." They passed the medical bay, where Young Su was treating a crew member for a minor injury. The workspace was clean, organized, and stocked with both technological equipment and natural remedies derived from local plants. "You've established a complete settlement infrastructure," Quillix noted. "In 25 days, humans are good at building," Biora said, wiping grease from her hands. She'd been working on the water wheel that powered their small workshop. "It's what we do. We see a place, and we improve it." Throck stopped at the defensive wall that surrounded the settlement. "This is military-grade fortification. This is practical defense," Day One corrected. "Callus 9 has predators? We don't want to kill them unnecessarily, but we need to protect ourselves. The wall serves that purpose." "You've killed several apex predators," Throck said. It wasn't quite an accusation, but it was close. "Necessary," Minji replied, joining the conversation. She'd been showing the visitors the map room, where they'd charted the entire region. "We've also tagged and released dozens of others. The shadow stalkers that we captured. They're thriving. We monitor them daily. 3 of the juveniles have learned to hunt successfully." "You monitor them?" Velshara asked. "Why?" "Because we want to understand them," Hygiene explained, pulling up data on her portable display. "Look, we've learned so much about this ecosystem. The shadow stalkers are keystone predators. They keep the razor spine hunter population in check. If we'd killed all of them, the entire region's balance would have collapsed." Sela floated closer to examine the data. "You've done more ecological research in 25 days than our scientists did in 10 years. How? We care about it," Hyjin said simply. "This isn't just a test for us. This is a potential home. We treat it like one." The tour continued. They saw the workshop where Biora's team created tools and machinery from local materials. They saw the communal area where crew members gathered in the evenings to share stories and plan the next day's work. They saw the education center where knowledge was being compiled and shared. Finally, they returned to the central fire pit. Day One gestured for the council members to sit. It was an oddly domestic moment, sitting around a fire with representatives of species that considered themselves superior to humanity. "You wanted to test us," Day One said, breaking the silence, "to see if we could survive. I think we've proven we can do more than that." "You've exceeded expectations," Velshara admitted. "But that raises questions. Uncomfortable questions like..." "What?" Day One asked. Throck spoke, his voice carefully controlled. "Like whether the galaxy is ready for a species as dangerous as yours." The words hung in the air. Several humans tensed, but Dayan remained calm. "Dangerous how?" "You've turned a death world into a home in less than a month," Throck said. "You've defeated predators that killed trained warriors from multiple species. You've built infrastructure that rivals established colonies. And you've done it with primitive tools and minimal technology. What happens when you have full access to galactic resources?" "We build more," Day One said. "We explore more. We learn more. That's what humans do." "That's what concerns me," Throck replied. "Your species is too good at conquering hostile environments. You don't just adapt to challenges. You overcome them completely. That's not normal." "For you?" maybe Minji said. "But for us, it's survival. We come from a planet that's been trying to kill us since we first stood upright. Every advance we made, Earth threw something worse at us. Ice ages, predators, diseases, climate shifts. We survived by being stubborn, by refusing to give up, by building and adapting and improving." "That's exactly the problem," Throck said. "You're too good at it." Quillix clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. "War Master, with respect, I think you're looking at this wrong. Yes, humans are dangerous. But so is every species in the Council. The Draxians conquered through military might. My people dominate through economic control. The Loomis Collective holds power through technology. Humans are just honest about their capabilities. We're not conquerors. Jiwoo's voice came from behind them. She'd arrived on a follow-up shuttle, her role as ambassador too important to miss this meeting. We're survivors. There's a difference. Conquerors take what isn't theirs. Survivors make the most of what they have. And when you survive so well that you have everything, Throck challenged. What then? We share it, Kiwoo said. Look at our history. Yes, we've fought wars. Yes, we've been violent. But we've also been the only species on our planet to develop empathy for creatures that aren't our own kind. We've protected endangered animals, even ones that used to hunt us. We've preserved ecosystems we no longer needed. We've reached for the stars not to conquer them, but to understand them. She sat down next to Daewon. You're afraid of us because we remind you of something you've forgotten. We remind you that survival isn't just about being strong or smart or technologically advanced. It's about being adaptable. And yes, sometimes that means being dangerous. But it also means knowing when not to be dangerous. Velshara's light patterns shifted, a sign of deep thought. You released the Shadow Stalker. After it attacked your crew member, after you captured it, you let it go. Why? Because killing it would have been easy, Daewon said. Understanding it, protecting it, giving it a chance to live in its own territory without threatening us, that was harder. We chose the harder path because it was the right one. That's the paradox of humanity, Sella observed. You're capable of great violence, but choose restraint. You're skilled hunters, but show mercy. You're fierce survivors, but dream of peace. How do we reconcile these contradictions? You don't, Youngsu said, joining the conversation. He'd been listening from the medical bay. You accept that humans are complex. We contain multitudes, as one of our poets said. We can be warriors and healers, builders and preservers, individuals and community. That's not a weakness. It's our strength. The conversation continued into the evening. The council members asked questions about human history, culture, and philosophy. The humans answered honestly, hiding nothing. They spoke of wars and peace treaties, of environmental destruction and conservation efforts, of genocides and humanitarian aid. By the time night fell completely, something had shifted. The council members were beginning to understand that humanity wasn't just another species seeking membership. They were something different, something that didn't fit the established categories. The trial ends in 5 days, Velshara said finally. You've clearly passed. But the council must still vote on full membership. I cannot predict the outcome. We understand, Daewon said. Whatever happens, we've proven what we needed to prove, to you and to ourselves. As the council members prepared to leave, Throck pulled Daewon aside. I owe you honesty, the War Master said quietly. I placed observers on this moon to watch you. They've reported everything. We know, Daewon replied. We found them on day 17. Throck's eyes widened. You knew? Why didn't you report this violation? Because we understood why you did it. You were afraid? Fear makes people do things they normally wouldn't. We didn't need to report you because we weren't hiding anything. We just did what we came here to do. The War Master was silent for a long moment. My observers say you're the most dangerous species they've encountered. I'm beginning to think they're right. But maybe that's what the galaxy needs. After the council members left, the crew gathered around the fire. They were tired, dirty, and still had 5 days left of their trial. But they were also proud. Think we scared them? Ga asked. Definitely, Sung-ho replied. Good, Taeyang said. Let them be scared. Let them see what humans can do when we're challenged. Maybe then they'll think twice before underestimating us again. Daewon looked around at his crew, then up at the stars where he knew the council watched. Whatever they decide, we've changed something. They'll never look at humans the same way again. He was right. In the council chambers, an emergency session was being called. Because while the humans had been proving themselves on Callus 9, sensors at the edge of the galaxy had detected something that would change everything. An invasion. Fleet, massive, unknown, and heading directly for council space. The galaxy was about to Learn that it needed humanity far more than humanity needed thee. Council. The alert reached Calasanine on day 28. Daewon was inspecting the northern perimeter when Sung-Ho ran up, his face pale. Sir, we're receiving an emergency transmission from the Council. It's flagged as galaxy-wide threat level. They rushed to the communications center, a small building Biora had constructed with salvaged equipment from their shuttle. The message played, and Daewon felt ice form in his stomach. An invasion fleet had been detected at the edge of galactic space. The ships were unlike anything in Council records. They didn't respond to hails, didn't slow down, didn't negotiate. They simply advanced toward inhabited systems, destroying everything in their path. The Void Fleet, Haijin said quietly, reading the technical data. That's what the preliminary reports are calling them. They came from beyond our galaxy. How many ships? Minji asked. Over 10,000 confirmed. Probably more behind them. The number was staggering. The entire Galactic Council's combined fleet numbered around 3,000 vessels. They were outnumbered 3-1, possibly worse. What are our orders? Tae-Yang asked. Daewon read through the rest of the transmission. The trial is terminated, effective immediately. All ships are being recalled to defensive positions. We're to return to Earth space and await further instructions. They're running, Minji said flatly. The Council is preparing to evacuate. Can you blame them? Youngsu asked. Look at those numbers. A second transmission arrived, this one directed specifically to Daewon. It was from Admiral Sujan Ro, the commander of Earth's small but modern fleet. Captain Kim, I'm en route to your position with 30 ships. Earth is mobilizing everything we have. The Council has requested our assistance in coordinating defense efforts. They seem to think we have something to offer. The Admiral paused, her expression grave. Apparently someone told them humans are good at dealing with impossible odds. Daewon allowed himself a small smile. Get everyone packed? We're leaving Callus 9, sir, Ga said. What about everything we've built? He looked around at New Hope, the settlement they'd created from nothing. It hurt to leave it behind, but there were more important things at stake now. Stays. Maybe we'll come back someday. Right now, the galaxy needs us more than this place does. 48 hours later, Daewon stood on the bridge of the human cruiser Defiant, flagship of Admiral Ro's battle group. Around them, Council ships gathered in what was supposed to be a defensive formation, but looked more like organized chaos. They have no idea what to do, Sung-Ho observed. He'd been assigned as tactical liaison to the Admiral's staff. They've never faced an existential threat, Admiral Ro replied. She was a tall woman in her 50s, with gray streaks in her hair and eyes that had seen too many battles. The Council's species have been at peace for so long, they've forgotten how to fight a real war. And we remember. Daewon asked. We've never had the luxury of forgetting, she said. Earth's been at war with something for our entire history. Each other, our environment, diseases, predators. We're only 3 generations removed from global conflicts that nearly destroyed our species. That's not something to be proud of, but it means we understand warfare in ways these people don't. A holographic display activated, showing Velshara and the Council military commanders. War Master Throck was there, looking uncertain for the first time since Daewon had met him. The Void Fleet will reach the Outer Territories in 6 days, Velshara announced. We have 40 inhabited systems in their path. Evacuation is underway, but we won't get everyone out in time. What's the defense plan? Admiral Ro asked. We're establishing a defensive line at the Karos sector, Throck said. We'll meet them with everything we have. That's suicide, Admiral Ro said bluntly. You'll be outnumbered 3-1 in open space. They'll cut through your formations like they're not even there. Do you have a better suggestion, human? Throck challenged. Yes, Admiral Ro replied. We don't fight them where they want to fight. We use guerrilla tactics. Hit-and-run attacks. Make them chase us through asteroid fields, nebulae, gravity wells. We turn their numbers into a disadvantage. That's cowardice, a Council Admiral said. We don't run from enemies. Die fighting them in honorable battles, Admiral Ro snapped. I've read your military histories. Your last 10 major conflicts all ended with glorious last stands and thousands of dead heroes. Very inspiring. Also very stupid. The council members looked shocked. No one spoke to them this way. Humans don't believe in glorious last stands, Admiral Rea continued. We believe in winning. And winning means being smart, being ruthless, and being willing to do things the enemy doesn't expect. Velshara's light patterns shifted rapidly. You want us to abandon our honor? I want you to survive, Admiral Rea said. Honor is great when you're dead, but it doesn't help your people live. You asked humanity for help. This is what human help looks like. It's not pretty, it's not honorable, but it works. There was a long silence. Finally, Quillick spoke. I support the human plan. We've spent weeks watching them survive on Callus-9. They did things we thought impossible. Maybe it's time we listen to them. I agree, Sella said. The humans have proven they understand survival. That's what we need now. Throck looked like he wanted to argue, but eventually nodded. Very well. The fleet is yours to command, Admiral Rea. Try not to get us all killed. No promises, Admiral Rea replied. But I'll do my best. The next 6 days were a blur of activity. Admiral Rea reorganized the entire council fleet, breaking large battle groups into smaller, more mobile squadrons. She positioned forces in asteroid fields, behind planets, near nebulae, anywhere that gave them tactical advantages. More importantly, she changed how they thought about combat. Council warfare was based on formal engagements, fleet against fleet, with clear rules and objectives. Human warfare was based on one principle: make the enemy pay for every inch of space. We're not trying to destroy their fleet, Daewon explained to a group of alien officers during a briefing. That's impossible with our numbers. We're trying to make them hurt, make them bleed, make them afraid, break their will to fight. But they're machines, one officer protested. Or at least partially biological. They don't feel fear. Everything feels fear, Minji said. She'd been assigned to train council soldiers in guerrilla tactics. It just takes different forms. For machines, fear is uncertainty, unpredictable outcomes, losses that don't match projections. We give them that. The Void Fleet arrived on schedule, dropping out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the outer territories. Their ships were massive, dark constructs that seemed to absorb light. They moved with eerie coordination. It's like a single organism spread across thousands of vessels. The Council's traditional defensive line would have been waiting for them at Karos. Instead, they found empty space. For 12 hours, the Void Fleet advanced unopposed. Council observers watched nervously, wondering if the humans had simply abandoned them. Then the first attack hit. A squadron of 30 ships. Mixed human and Council vessels appeared from behind an asteroid field. They fired everything they had at the rear elements of the Void Fleet, destroyed 2 ships, damaged 5 more, and disappeared back into the asteroids before the main fleet could respond. 2 hours later, another attack from a different direction. Then another. Then another. The Void Fleet tried to adapt, sending ships to clear the asteroid fields. They found traps, automated weapons, mines. Even chunks of rock accelerated to near-light speed that tore through their vessels like paper. They're getting frustrated, Sung-Ho reported from his position aboard the Defiant. Their formation is breaking up as they try to respond to multiple threats. Good, Admiral Rose said. Now we show them what real frustration looks like. She ordered the largest attack yet. 50 ships, including the Defiant, emerged from a nebula and struck at the Void Fleet's supply vessels. In human military doctrine, you didn't just fight the enemy's warships. You destroyed their ability to sustain a campaign. The battle was brief and brutal. The humans lost 8 ships, but destroyed 30 Void vessels. Most of them supply and support craft. The Void Fleet's response was immediate and terrifying. They launched a massive counterattack, sending 2,000 ships after the human forces. They took the bait, Admiral Rose said with grim satisfaction. All ships. Execute Retreat Plan Alpha. The human and Council forces fled into a binary star system, the Void Fleet in pursuit. What the enemy didn't know was that human engineers had spent the past 6 days preparing this system for battle. As the Void Fleet entered the gravity wells of the two stars, something unexpected happened. A chain reaction of explosions ripped through their formation. The humans had planted fusion devices throughout the system, tuned to the exact frequency that would overload the Void ship's power systems in 5 minutes. The humans destroyed or disabled over 400 enemy vessels, the largest single loss the Void Fleet had ever suffered. And that was when the galaxy learned something terrifying about humanity. They didn't just adapt to war, they innovated in it. They turned physics into weapons, psychology into tactics, and terrain into allies. The Void Fleet's response changed. They started broadcasting a message on all frequencies. It was simple. "What are you?" Admiral Rea responded personally. Her words would be recorded and studied for generations. "We evolved on a death world, survived ice ages, conquered our own planet, and reached for the stars. You made a mistake coming here. You thought you'd find soft civilizations that have forgotten how to fight. Instead, you found us. And we've never forgotten. We can't forget. It's in our DNA, burned into our history, written in every scar our species has earned over 200,000 years. You wanted a fight? Congratulations. You've activated humanity's hunter mode. Now you're the prey." The battle for the outer territories continued for 3 more weeks. The Void Fleet was larger, more powerful, and more advanced. But they'd never faced an enemy like humanity. Humans didn't fight fair. They used asteroids as weapons, planets as shields, gravity wells as traps. They struck at night during storms from impossible angles. They destroyed supply lines, sabotaged enemy ships from within, and spread misinformation through hacked communications. Most importantly, they taught the Council species to fight the same way. Minji's guerrilla warfare training became mandatory for all soldiers. Bior's improvisational engineering was adopted fleet-wide. Youngsu's battlefield medicine saved thousands of lives. By the end of the 3rd week, the Void Fleet had lost over 30% of its ships. Their advance had stalled. For the first time in their invasion history, they retreated. The galaxy celebrated. The Void Fleet wasn't destroyed, but they'd been stopped, driven back. Convinced that this galaxy was defended by something dangerous, in the Council chambers, a historic vote was held. Earth was granted full membership with a special designation, Guardian Species. They weren't the strongest or most advanced, but they were the species you wanted when everything else failed. Day 1 returned to Callus 9 one final time. The settlement still stood, weathered but intact. He walked through the empty streets. Remembering the 30 days that had changed everything, G-Ah had stayed behind, along with a small team. They were turning New Hope into a training facility where other species could learn human survival techniques. "You're really staying?" Day 1 asked her. "Someone has to teach them," Gia replied. "Besides, I like it here. It reminds me that humans can build as well as destroy." Back on Earth, Day 1 met with Ambassador Ji Woo one last time before his next assignment. She looked tired but satisfied. "We did it," she said. "We earned our place. At what cost?" Day 1 asked. "At the cost of showing the galaxy who we really are. Not monsters, not saints, just survivors. That's enough." Velshara's final report on humanity was simple but profound. Humanity doesn't just survive. They transform everything they touch. They turned a death world into a garden. They turned a test into a statement. They turned an invasion into a lesson. We feared them because they looked soft, but we forgot that the most dangerous predators often appear harmless until they strike. The day we witnessed humans' hunter mode, the galaxy realized what we'd found. Not members, but teachers. Not subjects, but saviors. Not just another species, but the one species that never forgot what it means to fight for survival against impossible odds. The galaxy had underestimated humanity. They wouldn't make that mistake again. And somewhere in the void beyond their borders, the Void Fleet received their own report. It contained one simple recommendation: avoid systems defended by humans. They are not prey. They are apex predators who merely pretend to be civilized. Do not wake them again. Humanity had arrived in galactic civilization, and the universe would never be the same.